because at the end of the whole process, you still have to sell tickets to allow audience to come and watch your films. But the importance of short film is, if you don't make a short films, or if you don't make enough short films, how do you know when, or are you even ready to make a feature films, which has so much more risk?
Melting Pot, a global podcast series hosted by Payal, connects guests who have inspiring stories and reaches out to a multicultural audience over 52 countries. Guests are diverse, such as celebrities, entrepreneurs, travelers, and many more who've had a turning point in their lives and moved over to a holistic lifestyle. Follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, social media. Hi, everyone. Today I am in conversation with Alvin Lee. Alvin is a filmmaker. He graduated from the Beijing Film Academy. His short films have won the top awards at various film festivals, and he is the director of Smoke Gets Into Your Eyes, which is being screened at the 33rd Singapore International Film Festival. So thank you so much. It's a privilege to talk to you, Alvin.
Thank you so much, Payal. Thanks for having me. It's a privilege to be here as well.
Thank you. So, just a little bit about your background, Alvin, before we start talking about films.
So, I actually started filmmaking when I was studying in Singapore Poly, in the course titled Digital Media. Now it's called Visual Effects and Motion Graphics. So I was quite a rebellious student. I didn't like to study when I was back in secondary school. Math and science has never been my top subjects. So after I got passed through O level, when I got into I have to choose between JC, junior college, or even polytechnic. I was telling myself, I need to choose a course that has nothing to do with any of memorizing, any of studying. So I looked through the few courses that I had in mind. I was like, okay, maybe this digital media is great. I can just watch films and movies, and that's all I have to do for the next 3 years of my life. So I decided to apply to it, and I realized I was pretty much wrong, because I still have to study maths for one semester. I have to learn programming. I have to learn web design, Photoshop, everything. Because for the first year we have to choose we have to learn all the different subjects. Only when year two we are able to choose our so-called focus module or even elective. So only when I need to choose my elective for the second year, I'm quite sure that I think filmmaking is something that I really love, because I can just say what I want to say just by using the camera. And I decide to take on filmmaking in year two. So after I graduated from poly, I went to the army. I still make films during my weekend, when I'm on leave with my friends, and that's the first time I actually won an award in the Very Short International Film Festival in Singapore, and we won the Grand Prix, which is top prize for the film festival. And that was when I realized, maybe I do have some talent, or maybe this is something that I want to. I've a lot of ambition since young. I did martial arts for more than 10 years. I want to be a martial artist. I hope to be a coach. I want to be an army officer. I want to be a lot, but I've never thought that when I was young, I would be a filmmaker today. Yeah. So, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty bad at martial arts. So my friend actually said something. Maybe you should stop doing martial arts and just focus on arts. Since you're pretty
Absolutely.
good. Yes.
Yeah,
So,
seems to be a
yes.
very good advice. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So after that, I decided to really pursue filmmaking seriously. So I applied to Beijing Film Academy, Department of Directing. Beijing Film Academy is one of the best film school in the world. I mean, we have notable alumni like Zhang Yimou, Chen Kaige, all the top filmmakers from China, all from the school. And I decided to apply to it, and we have to take 7 days of entrance exam. So about 1,000 plus students apply for it. In there, only 20 got selected. So it's less than 1% of intake. So I managed to got in, and I survived the 4 years course in directing. And now I'm back in Singapore in 2019. or 18, I can't remember, I think it's 2019. And I still make films, and Smoke Gas in Your Eyes is my latest short film that I've made after my studies, after everything.
So, like short films versus feature films. What kind of a market does short films have outside of the film festivals? And where do you see a difference between making a short film other than the feature film being a long form film? What kind of a difference do you really see? So these are essentially two questions.
Mm. Okay, I think for short film, based on my own experience, I mean, there's only once or twice that my past short films has been bought over by international markets to to feature in their, for example, their TV channels, and even for their specific location markets. So we have a lot of saying then, because short films are known to have almost zero revenue back of what you invest in. But why do we still continue to make short films? This kind of answer your questions to what's the difference between a feature film and short films. Because a short film, you have no one to really question you what you want to make or what kind of story do you want to tell. You are responsible for your own creation, even if for your own success or even failures. And that's the time where an artist can be so-called have the most freedom to really make what you want to make, because you don't have to answer pretty much to investors. You don't have to worry about box office. You don't have to worry about who you want to cast, because some people may want to cast their own family members or want to have like non-professional talent. But in feature films, you have to worry about all these things, because whether the talent actually brings in market value to you. Because at the end of the whole process, you still have to sell tickets to allow audience to come and watch your films. But the importance of short film is, if you don't make a short films, or if you don't make enough short films, how do you know when, or are you even ready to make a feature films, which has so much more risk? And short films is a good platform for young filmmakers to really practice their skills and even to showcase their storytelling skills. Because for investors to be willing to invest in your films, for first-time feature film director, they have to look at your short films to know whether you have the potential to direct a long feature films.
So, with these new, I mean, today, the streaming platforms have completely taken over. And whether it's cinema or it's, the innumerable series that you now are able to access, is there a category for short films in that format? Is it something that the streaming platforms are now looking at, or it's still a very, very unknown kind of factor when it comes to these big, giant streaming platforms?
I think short film is still considered a very small market for all this. Like I said, because streaming platforms is also the same as cinema. You still have to sell viewership. You have to sell ratings. There's very little chance that short films will be able to cast a so-called A-lister characters or even actors to act in your film. And we all know that all these names actually sells tickets, sell money. Yes, unless you have a very famous director, for example, we have Steven Spielberg, who have decided to really go back and make one short film. Then we all know that a lot of people will be interested because it's Steven Spielberg that is making a short film. But if Alvin Lee were to make a short film, maybe we don't have that much attention. Yes, only maybe my family and friends will be very supportive and wait for my new short films. Yes, so I guess because this is also the restrictions that we have, because a short film is technically about 15 to 30 minutes, the rough duration. Yes. How much are you willing to pay to watch a 15 to 30-minute short film? So that's why some of them will combine three short films together to become like an omnibus film. Yes, and that sells also. And this has happened before in Singapore. We have 7 letters. We have Royston Tan, Jack Neo, Eric Khoo come together to make a film together, and for the Singapore 50th anniversary. Yeah.
What is your inspiration? How do you get your ideas to actually write these scripts and then go ahead and direct them into films?
Actually, I don't like to write. I really not a good writer, but I have to emphasize on why is it so. Because in Singapore, it's very hard to find a writer, or even like a so-called a good writer. That's why most of the directors have to write their own script. I think I actually only when I don't read a lot before I go to China. But when I go to China, after I go to China, I was so taken aback because I see all of my classmates are just reading novels in their own free time. That's where I realized that I'm lacking in behind in so much that from as compared to them, because they are way younger than me. They are 18 years old. I went there after national service. I was already 25 years old. Yes, but they can write stories so much faster and so much easier just because they read that actually woke me up. And we have literature lesson over there. So I start reading Kafka, start reading Hemingway, start reading Catcher in the Rye. Now I read more than I watch films. And this has become a habit of mine because I told myself, okay, I cannot lose in the aspect. I have to catch up with them. So I started reading, and even up to now, when I go for sharing session to younger filmmakers, I say you all have to read the reading habit in Singapore. But our education system doesn't have that habit of fusing literature into the education system that much, because in China there's there are 5,000 years of culture. They have novels written all already from way earlier, and this has been part of their education. Like we have the famous novel Journey to the West, where we know the monkey god and all these are famous novels of China. Yes, and all the other classics. So that's the reason why I encourage people to read. And for me, when I wrote for Smoke, it's about comedy drama, about how a film director actually cremated the body, and he has to face the family members of the one of the one that is wrongly cremated, and they have to come out with a plan to organize a funeral. So it may seem very ridiculous, the whole premise and all, but how it started is when it was actually quite a sad story. I was I've been through I went to a few funerals, so I was observing all the family members and how they react, or some of them, because I know their background. I was so taken aback. I was thinking that this is so hypocrite. There's so much hypocrisy, because one particular incident is that the old lady is a family friend. She was very rich, but after she had her will to her kids start to kick her out of her house. So she had throat cancer, and so her last few years of her life, she didn't have a good life, I can say. But during at her funeral, it was so grand. It was so beautifully organized outside of the landed property. Her kids were crying, sobbing, and all. But for me, because I know the backstory of what happened, I can't help but really think that, is it real or fake? There's so much drama to it, but what is really real or fake? How much percentage is real sorrow, and how much percentage is it for show? Or how much percentage is it for the so-called their kids' family personal gains? Like we always say, our face, how important is our face? So all this actually give me a anger or peace or something that I really want to express in this film. But I also want to package it in a way that it's slightly funny. So I came out with that comedy premise of burning the wrong body, and the whole hypocrisy about organizing a funeral, but then inside the coffin is not their father. So it's how it all started.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask you, what do you think is the most important quality to be a film director? And this, you yourself are very young, but I guess a lot of the young listeners who are aspiring to be film directors would probably get some inspiration from what you believe, or what you think is an important quality.
I think one of the very important quality is that you have to be hardworking. Hardworking to in what sense? Like I myself is a fan of the late Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant is a hard worker, basketballer, is known for his work ethics. And I believe arts is the same. You have to work hard in whatever aspect. It's not about taking 10 years to write one perfect script. It's about using 10 years to make 10 errors and learn from your own failure. Because I believe there's no perfect story or even perfect film that you have to take 10 years. You have to learn from your mistake. You need to be there. You need to dare to fail. You need to be resilient. Why? Because we have faced a lot of setback. Or I personally face a lot of setback, but nobody knows the hardship behind. Everybody knows the red carpet, the glamour, going out on stage, receiving an award. Thank you, everybody. It's my honor. These kind of things. All these are great. But back to the core, when you're all alone in your room, why do you want to be a filmmaker? First, you need to love the craft and love the arts. But I always tell people to love it is not enough. You need to be obsessed with it. You need to really live, breathe, eat film. Everything, even you go to the Kogan and you observe what, hey, this uncle is quite interesting. You need to have this kind of mentality. We always have this thinking that, okay, after I finish a shoot, I will question myself, why am I making myself so miserable? I can easily do something else in another industry. I can sell maybe insurance or property. I'll probably earn more money and all, but why am I still doing it? I mean, why am I making myself so miserable? But if I stop doing it for 2 or 3 days, I will be thinking, maybe I should start thinking of another story. I should write something, So I will call it a vicious cycle. Yes, but sometimes it's really, and because I have a lot of friends who has given up, or even I won't say give up, but maybe change of industry, change of life plans and life goals, and that's perfectly fine. Because all the filmmakers in Singapore, in the world, can tell you it's not easy. We all have to. For me, I personally believe in working hard. If smoke gets in your eyes, were to fail, were to be a flop, will be a fail. What I'm thinking next, or even what I'm thinking is how do I improve on my next film? I already passed this current stage of this film, but I still have to do all the promotional awards or even go for festival. But I am more interested in how can I improve next, and that's my thought process. Yeah.
So just very quickly, before I sum up, so you've been making short films. What do you think has been your biggest achievement so far?
Wow, this is the toughest question of today's session. I think my biggest achievement is not giving up yet. To me, I'm gonna share a personal story. Like this year, it has been very hard for me before all the success of Smoke, because I really didn't have much job this year. I only have like one job. Currently I'm doing it one, but I don't have much jobs, so I have no income for almost a year, and this is hard. And how do you still keep going on? My mindset is every day I still set alarm to wake up in the morning, and I will read for 1 hour. I start drinking my coffee. I will start thinking of what to write or something. I make it a habit that I will still do it even though I have nothing going on for me. Because I believe that if all this I'm learning or reading or trying to learn are something that I can keep inside here, inside my brain, inside my mind for my future usage if I were to make future films. Because there's always something to learn. But once I sunk into the very lazy of mode or zone, by playing games or even just watch slapstick stuff every day, I will just be lazy and will start giving up. But it's all about, so my back to your question is, I'm proud of myself that I'm still thinking of making films as we are having this conversation now. And I hope that I will still do it for tomorrow, the day after, and I don't know when, but I will still try my best. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Good luck. And I saw the trailer and I think it's very, very interesting. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be in Singapore to actually go for the screening, but it looks very interesting. So once again, good luck. And I'm sure it's going to be a success. And I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more about you and of you in the near future. So thank you once again. The 33rd edition of the Singapore International Film Festival continues to drive a new agenda for change. A fabulous lineup of 101 films from over 50 countries will be screened from the 26th of November until the 4th of December 2022. For more information, visit their website www.sgiff.com. For more weekly conversations, do listen to Melting Pot on Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts. Follow us on YouTube and on Instagram at Podcast Melting Pot. So until the next episode, this is Payal signing off.